Welcome back to Generator, my friend. I've been a professional photographer for going on 13 years, but I've been at this podcasting and online radio thing since about 1999. So there's something to say for longevity doing the thing you love. But what defines longevity is consistency, working in a way that is repeatable and efficient so that it never really feels like work. If you can do that, then true happiness isn't that far behind. And someone that encapsulates all of those best parts is Sandra Coan. For over 25 years, she's been photographing newborns and families and maternity portraits. No gimmicks, no trends, just amazing light, honest emotion, and a deep respect for the people in front of her lens. Sandra's not only a photographer, but she's an educator, an author, and quite honestly, a gold star example for other creatives who want to master their craft, grow their business, and keep their integrity intact along the way. In this episode, we talk about what it means to build a career around consistency. We explore how human connection plays such a strong role in her work, what teaching others has taught her, and why being a photographer is more about paying attention than getting the technically perfect shot. This episode was so easy, not only because Sandra is so conversational, but because it's about heart. These are the conversations that I live for. So whether you're new to photography or 20 years in, I think Sandra's insight's going to hit home. So now, let's get on with the show. How have you been since WPPI? Did you get sick or is everything kind of back to normal?
I got so sick after the show. I lost my voice, which happens every year.
Yeah.
But then, we did get sick, but a lot of people did.
I did.
It wasn't COVID because I tested like 14 times. I was just like normal sick. But you got sick too?
I did. It was, it was kind of like a 24-hour bug. I'm used to it. Anytime I go to Vegas, I don't know what I'm going to come home with. And I know that sounds like a loaded statement, but like every time I go to Vegas, I worry about, just travel sickness. I don't concern myself with it too much, but I'm like, I'm going to probably one of the most crowded places on the planet. I'm going to be rubbing up against people I don't know. Something is going to make its way into my body.
And honestly, like Vegas, just baseline is pretty gross.
Pretty gross. It's good to know your voice is back. You were sounding a little bit hoarse.
At WPPI? Oh, it was awful. Like the morning of my platform talk, I woke up, I had like no voice. I thought I was going to have to like get really close to the microphone and like go like full like lounge singer. It came back.
At the time that we're recording this, the episode that came out earlier this week was the WPPI recap. I did it with Mitzi Starkweather. I really do want to talk to you about your experience there. With all the changes that happened this year, how did you feel like it was at the Rio? Anything that you saw, good, bad, ugly, and then also, how was it speaking on stage? I was there. Yeah. I want to hear your take on it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love WPPI. I feel like when I go to WPPI, like I'm seeing like my family, like, friends, other speakers, even like people that I like attendees that have come to my talks over the years and that I see every year. I just really love that conference. It feels like home to me.
Yeah.
Regardless of where it is. As far as like the location this year, I was a little worried because I like consistent, predictable routines. And I had the Mirage mapped in my brain. But I actually thought it was really good. For me personally, I had a great show. I thought like the people who were there were really engaged and really excited. I met a lot of people who it was their first WPPI, which was really fun. And my class was interesting because the way the lighting worked in my room, I couldn't see the audience, which doesn't usually happen. So I could literally just see the front row. So I had no idea what was happening. And that part was a little challenging because like as a speaker, I get a lot of energy from seeing interactions in the audience. But then it was fun. Like it was like a real pleasant surprise because then after I got off stage and I was able to come down, like, oh, like the room was full. Like, look at all you people in the back. Like, hi. So that was really fun. I had a great show.
I heard from a few different presenters that kind of the infrastructure there was a little wonky. like the lights were a little bit too bright on stage. Some projectors were wonky. The stage itself was really tiny, right? Every seminar that I saw was a little bit different in those regards, right? And it's just what you get in a conference center. You get different types of rooms. I sat through the majority of yours, but you were talking all about the modern marketing method, and we're going to get into that because it spoke so much to me. And this is really one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, because you've been on this train for a while in terms of teaching this style of marketing and being a lot more authentic and upfront. It doesn't have to be super produced and flashy. It's just about human connection. So I'd love to dive into a lot of that with you, because it's a topic that's central to everything that I do. And I love finding out how people use connection in their own businesses. So
I would love to talk about that, because it's something I'm really, really passionate about. So I started my photography business in 1999. So I've been doing this a minute. So I've been in business for, this is my 26th year.
Yeah.
And the marketing approach that I use is something that I kind of stumbled upon just out of necessity in my own business.
Yeah.
But it works. And the more that I learned about actual business, branding and sales, because I really do study that, still study it all the time. It just, to me, it feels good as a small business owner to market this way, but it's also just really effective. And one of the reasons why I love teaching this approach to photographers in particular is because we aren't like other brands and other businesses and other industries. Like, we do really intimate work with people. We're at people's weddings, or, when they're having their babies, or, even headshots. Like, there's something very vulnerable about standing in front of a camera and getting your picture taken. And so we need to come at our marketing through that lens. And the way that traditional marketing is taught doesn't necessarily align with that. So that's why I'm so excited about teaching it. And as far as like when I started teaching marketing, it's actually really funny, because I'm known in the education space for lighting. That's what my first book was on, lighting, and most of my classes are lighting, and that's what I teach. Side note, lighting and business go hand in hand. But my first big speaking gig, like the first time I was asked to speak on a big stage, I was asked to speak about marketing. Business and marketing. And I taught a version of what I teach now. The name of the class that I taught at that time was 3 Things Photographers Need to Know to Build a 6-Figure Business, or something like that. And it was at the Clickaway conference through Click Photo School.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And I think it was 2015 or 2016 that I started doing this. So it's interesting that I'm known for lighting, but honestly, I've been speaking on stages about business and marketing longer than I've been speaking on stages about lighting. Does that make sense?
It does. No, absolutely. How do you compare traditional marketing to what we're doing in the creative field? It doesn't even have to be just photography, because I think a lot of your stuff can apply to artists of any
I think so.
Right. Yeah. So, and it really goes beyond the creative work. Where did you look at that traditional model and say, you know what, we can do this better?
For me, it was being a business owner and working with clients, and also like really checking in with myself about like what feels good and what doesn't feel good. So traditional marketing, as you know, and even what I was taught is that whole like marketing funnel. Like we've all heard about the sales funnel or the marketing funnel, right? And this is like the gold standard. And so what happened in my career is I started like a lot of photographers do, where I didn't think of photography as a job or whatever. I was actually a full-time kindergarten teacher with Seattle Public Schools. Right. And started photography on the side to supplement my income. And then like so many photographers do are like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this full time. This is my job. And with the idea in my head at that time that if I was going, all I really needed to be a successful photographer is be good at photography. And of course, quickly learned that that is not true. Nope. And so I was like really struggling just to make money and really struggling to find clients and all the things that photographers do. And so I decided to study business. I was like, okay, well, clearly I don't know how to run a business because I've never been taught that. And so that's what I did. I went outside the industry and studied, like you were saying, that traditional corporate model and learned the sales funnel. Okay, because that's what people learn. So for your listeners, if you're not familiar with the sales funnel is this approach to marketing that honestly has been around since the dawn of time. It's kind of the gold standard of marketing. And how it works is top of the funnel, the top of the funnel is really broad. And that's like the attract phase. That's where you try to get people's attention and like get them to notice you. So for photographers, this is like usually our photos, like what we're showing, what we're sharing, our portfolio. And then you get them into the funnel. And as they go through the funnel, it gets kind of smaller. The first phase after attract is connect or connection, right? You get them to reach out, send an email, make a call, that sort of thing. Then you go into convincing them. So once you get them on an email or a call, you tell them why you're the best photographer in the area and they should totally hire you. And then hopefully they hire you. And so with the traditional model, everything you're doing from the attract phase, from the pictures that you're sharing to the words that you're using on your website and your blog and social media, to what you're saying in emails, to what you're saying on those calls, all of that is with that sale, that final sale in mind. And in theory, that sounds great. And that's why that model works and why that model has been taught for so long. And for a lot of industries, it works wonderfully. It's perfect. But for photographers, it requires, I think, the amount of effort that it requires is unreasonable, and it leads to burnout, and it doesn't feel good to our clients. Because in order for a funnel to work, you have to be creating content at a volume that is unrealistic. Like that attract phase, you need to be like, big brands can do this because they have the budget and they have entire staffs, but you need to be out there posting every day, creating content every day. Most photographers are solopreneurs. We're doing this by ourselves. So it's not like we have a marketing team. So that part up there gets really hard. And then the message, because everything we're doing in a sales funnel is to get that sale, then the messaging that happens in the middle part of the funnel. So what we're saying, how we're talking to people, the message ends up being all about the sale. That is in a disconnect, I think, from what we do as artists, because yes, the sale's important, we're in business, but if you think about you're working with people, these really intimate moments, you need people to trust you. You need people to be able to open up to you. And when everything that you're doing in your marketing is just like sell, 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 heavy, 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 it turns a lot of people off. Yeah. And so the marketing funnel doesn't necessarily work for us. So what I teach instead, and what I use, what I believe, is more of a flywheel method, and it's client-centered. So instead of using my marketing to sell, I use my marketing to serve. So all my marketing channels are really devoted to getting inside of my client's brain, answering their questions, alleviating their worries, meeting them where they are, educating them through the process, what they need to know. Like, we're photographers, we do this every day, but our clients don't. And they're nervous and they're worried. And so if you can start talking to them through your marketing channels, it builds trust. It sets you up to look like you're an expert at what you're doing. It's a way to use marketing to create this relationship with somebody so that they do trust you, so that they do feel close, and then you make the sale. And from the point of view of a small business, it feels a heck of a lot better than just trying to sell, sell, sell all the time. And it's nicer for the client too. And actually, if I may, I told you I was a talker. I have a story about this because something just happened in my studio this weekend that just proves this point. So I had a client come in for a newborn session, and we're doing our work. And I always ask my people, like, oh, how'd you find me? And he was like, well, the husband was like, well, your website really sold you. And he was like, every single thing you had written on your website were questions that we had and things that we were concerned about. And he goes, it just made me feel like you really know your stuff. And I could tell that you really are an expert at this, and that we just trusted you. And I was like, exactly. Yeah. And that's the flywheel. And the blog post, he mentioned one particular blog post in particular. He was like, we were leaning towards you, we were sold. He's like, and then I read this one blog post, and I was like, yeah, this is the photographer for us. And the blog post that he mentioned was a blog post I had written 6 years ago. And so that's the other part of this marketing that I love. It's like, unlike the sales funnel, where the sales funnel, you're creating content every day. You're having to do new content every day. With a flywheel approach, you can create really strong client-centered content, and it will continue to work for you for years. And so I blog maybe twice a year. I'm not posting to Instagram every day.
You had mentioned that in your seminar that you only blog, twice a year, a couple times a year. And that fascinated me.
Yeah.
I think once you get to a point where you've got enough of this content out there, and it is evergreen content that people can look at year over year over year, and it's answering the questions that are core to your business, then you don't necessarily have to keep beating them over the head with the same thing.
No, but you do have to establish it.
And still have to establish it, for sure.
Yeah. Like that's what I teach the clients I mentor is like, or the photographers I mentor. It's like, get it going, get a consistent thing going. So you have that library. But then once it's going, that's the flywheel. That's why you call it a flywheel, because then it just snowballs. It just feeds itself.
It really does. I think it's important to go back to the beginning of what you were saying about the traditional funnel too, because a lot of what we see online as photographers are these, make $10,000 this month if you just follow this funnel. And, you can do $100,000 in 2 months if you just follow my extra course for $49. And everything becomes this push towards a system. The system is actually pushing people towards a system. It's not necessarily anything. They're just going to teach you how to build a funnel, which is the traditional market. And if they do things in volume by fire, meaning they produce enough content, they've got enough money for ads, it's going to pop up. Then it becomes part of our lexicon, part of our thing where, oh God, everybody must be doing it that way. And they're not. They're following that old traditional model. And the folks that I see in this industry that are the most successful are not doing that at all. They're the ones that are teaching the why. They're the ones that are serving rather than just being focused on these big sales, this big money, because those things are going to come anyway. So for newer photographers or newer business owners, I think it's a really important thing to understand at this point in your business, which is everybody's going to sell you something, but you have to find out first, why are you in business? And then once you have the answer to that, start working on material by following someone like you as to how to really refine it for your audience. Do I have that generally correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's spot on. Like we're in a service industry and the brands like you were saying that use funnels really well and then teach funnels, that they're in like business to business sales. And that's a completely different market. And I think you're right. I think like when a lot of times, like when you're reading business books or taking business classes, that's what you're learning is you're learning B2B marketing. And we don't do that. We're a service industry. And so like learning, you have to learn an approach that's going to fit your models. And I would say if someone's just starting this and just starting their business right now and they're hearing this and they're like, oh, this is blowing my mind or I want to do this. Like the best thing you can do as a small business owner is get to know your clients, and get to know yourself. Like I always tell people, like you have to figure out what it is you do. Like, what do you do? Not like I'm a newborn photographer, but what is your take on that genre? Like, what do you bring to what you do? And then who are your clients? And then in the middle of that Venn diagram is where your marketing gold, the marketing magic lives. And then you kind of figure that out. And there's systems to learn that. Like I can teach you how to do that, but that's it.
Well, that's really where I was going to go is like, let's unpack that just a little bit, right? Because if I am a brand new photographer, I might not even have clients yet. So how do I do this? How do I get the clients that are going to most resonate with why I am doing my photography, right? We'll just go with newborns, right? So if you're a newborn photographer and you don't have any clients yet, you still have to know yourself and know your why and your process and how you want to serve this client, right? You still have to know that stuff and that will evolve over time. But what do you say to someone that wants to start writing their marketing copy if they don't even have clients yet? How's the best way to approach that?
I'm so glad you asked that because that's like one of my favorite things to talk about. So did you see I'm like, I got all excited. I was like,
no, it's great. I'm just going to sit back. I'll talk to you in an hour. Like Knock yourself out.
So you have to start with the work. So I always tell photographers, like, what's really interesting about what we do and what's unique to our industry is that there is just not one way to market. So in other industries and other businesses, when people talk about marketing, they're usually talking about marketing copy and the words that you're using when you're talking about your brand. For photographers, we market in two ways. We market with our work and with our words. And those two things have to be in alignment. And so to really nail your marketing, you have to start with your work. And that means really looking at the very beginning, what do you do? What are the unique things? I tell people, I say this at every single talk I ever give about this. It's like, you're the only person in the entire world who can see something and capture something the way that you see it and you capture it, which I think is amazing. Like, that just kind of blows my mind. That's why you can be at a conference like WPPI or whatever. You can be in a room with 100 other photographers and everybody can be photographing the same thing and nobody is going to create the exact same shot. It's impossible. That's probably why we get inspired to pick up our camera in the first place, because there's a certain way that we see the world. There's something that we're drawn to, things that we are inspired to do. But for some reason, as soon as we start charging for our services, we are so quick to throw all of that under the bus. And we get into like, what's going to sell, which is because of the model, the funnel. But what's going to sell? What do people want? What is popular? What is on trend? And we completely lose sight of what like our creativity is. And then it becomes really hard to market because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to describe it to people. You don't know what to show because you're just chasing trends and trying to be like everybody else. And it changes the value. So instead of being unique and interesting, you become one of many. And when you're one of many, then the only thing people have to compare you on is pricing, which is a race to the bottom. So if you're just starting, focus on what it is you do and be brave enough to do it. So, for example, I'm a newborn photographer. I work in studio. I work with lighting, like artificial lighting, but my work does not look like any of those things. I work in a studio, but I don't do traditional newborn posing because I don't want to. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. I use lighting almost exclusively, but I actually don't like the way studio lighting looks most of the time. So I use lighting in a way that looks like natural.
It's very natural.
I still shoot. Yeah. It's very natural. I still shoot on film because, I don't know, I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to do things in post-production. I just want to do it in camera the way the Lord intended and have it done. So there's all these little pieces that make my brand really unique. So I can say I'm a newborn photographer, but what I do are all these little pieces that make me stand out and that make me different. And knowing that, then I can start using my marketing to build that. So at the very beginning, if you're really crystal clear on what it is that you do, then you can start thinking, even if you're imagining it, like, okay, well, given what I do, my vision, my voice, my artistic interpretation of my genre, what kind of person would want that? So the kind of person who's going to come to me is going to be somebody who doesn't want traditional newborn posing, who doesn't want like elaborate wraps, who doesn't want this. They want something a little more natural, but they also want, a timeless look of studio. They're probably people who are really into minimalism because I am. I just want like no backdrop, nothing in the way. I just want a baby on a bed and just photograph that, so like you start aligning like, okay, well, what are my core values? What do I show in my work? And then, okay, well, a person who's going to come to me is going to want those things. And you write that out. And I coach people to like literally write it out, like take the time, write it out, write a description, give it a name. And then every time you're sitting down to write marketing copy, you're doing it as if you're talking to that person and speaking directly to them. But it has to start with your work.
And I think in there is the big scary monster for most people, which is, oh, I have to look inside and know what I want and let go of what other people are thinking about me or could think about me. And what are other photographers going to think? And is there really a possibility that I can get paid for this? But I have to say the right things because all these other people out here told me to say these things to get clients.
Yeah.
So as you were doing this 26 years ago, as you started, looking back, is there anything that you had to unlearn
Oh, yeah.
as you started doing this type of marketing? Were there any old habits? Was there anything you needed to unlearn in order to find that version of yourself that felt real and authentic, and this is the person that I want to be?
Oh my God, 100%. I always say that running a business, being a full-time photographer and being in business for yourself is like being in therapy 24/7 because it's going to
Amen.
make you confront things, blocks, things about yourself, fears that you have, limiting beliefs that you have, and it's going to put it right in your face. And you have a choice over and over again to like look at it and address it and overcome it or stay stuck.
Right.
And honestly, that's the gift, I think, of entrepreneurship. I think that's also the craziness. Like all of us that do this, we're kind of insane. Like sometimes I'm like, I could just get a job and like dial it in and not have to like do all of this. But it's also like the growth part of it. So like absolutely, I had to overcome so many fears around worthiness, around trusting myself, around money, around my money blocks, like being able to ask for money, being able to put a price tag on something. I mean, the imposter syndrome was so real. I'm self-taught. I think a lot of people are, but I was a kindergarten teacher who just like was like, oh, I'm going to take pictures on the side. Even my lighting system, I developed the way I use my lights because I wanted light that looked a certain way. I never in 1,000 years thought I would be writing books about it or standing on stages teaching other people about it. It was just like what I do. And the internet loves to tell me I do it wrong, but it works for me. So whatever. So you have to get to that point where you really do just trust yourself and that you're willing to figure out what it is you do and be able to do it even though you're terrified, because you're right. It's hard to be different. And if you're like, well, I want to do this thing, but everybody else is doing this thing and they look like they're being successful at it. So if I do this thing, maybe no one's going to want it. And that's really scary.
Did going through this process as you learned to light differently, and what I mean by differently is core to who you are, right? Bucking the system of you have to do these traditional lighting methods, right? You come up with lighting that is good for your business. You come up with a style that is good for your business. Did it shift the way that you looked at your own work? Did you start to fall in love with it more? Or did you realize, oh, I got something that can sell. Let me run with this product.
Yeah, I totally fell in love with it. And it's really interesting too, if we talk about like the journey of being a creator, being an entrepreneur. I only came to my style when I was at the point where I was going to burn it all down, because I did what everybody else does. And I did spend the first like 8 years of my career trying to be like everybody else, trying to do what the popular people are doing. I just wanted to get clients. I just want to get paid. And I'm like, I'll shoot anything. I'll shoot your dog and your house and your wedding and your baby. Like I was just like, it was so desperate. And it wasn't working. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. And it got to the point where I was like, this isn't working. Like, I guess I'm just not cut out for this. And it was just kind of this like surrender moment. I'm like, fine, if it's not going to work, then I'm at least just going to do what I want to do and just give up trying to make it work. And I'm just going to shoot the way I want to shoot. I'm going to show up the way I want to show up. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And just like, I want to say, fuck it, and like, just like, I'm done. And that's when things shifted. Because the more I leaned into that, then people started to notice because my work didn't look like everybody else's all of a sudden. And there was a niche. And that was such a learning, I was going to say moment. It was a period of several years where I was going through that and learning that. But now I love that I'm at a place where I can share that with other photographers so they don't have to go through all the pain that I went through. And now at this point, 26 years in, and, I've coached hundreds of photographers. I've taken so many people on this journey. I am convinced that no matter what it is you do, what your niche is, no matter, like if you were like, okay, Sandra, I'm really passionate about felting small woodland creatures and then making fairy furniture for them and then just photographing my little felted woodland creatures, and that's what I want to do, I'd be like, freaking go for it, because there's somebody out there right now searching on the internet for exactly that. Like, I really, really, really believe that. Like, no matter what it is you do, no matter how crazy you think it is or how niche you think it is, there is somebody out there looking for it. Like, we're a planet of 8 billion people. Lean into it. And the more you can lean into it and do it fearlessly, because it's really scary, the more successful you're going to be. And I believe that in my core.
When I get into these conversations with other photographers or other artists, right? Most of my friends are photographers, but I like to think in a wider creative sense and, I have a lot of artist friends. And the conversations that I get into, we often feel like the art that we produce, whatever it is, our writing, our photography, isn't anything special. It's competitive, but it ain't special. So there's a lot of doubt that creeps into the mind about, I can't set myself apart because the work's not that good. I know I'm not that good of a photographer. I'm serviceable, but I'm mediocre. I am not producing award-winning work. So all this doubt creeps in from, again, thinking about what other people think of us. Were there any moments where you really doubted, and what was the sign that showed you were on the right path?
Oh, I still worry about that. Part of that. I think that's part of the creative process. But moments where it has really stuck out was one of the big turning points for me in my career as an educator came when I was asked to do Creative Live. Like back when Creative Live was like the thing, right?
The thing, yeah.
And I was asked to come in and met with Arlene, who I love. We all love Arlene. And they booked me for an entire week of classes. And I, up until that point, like I had done some speaking on stages, like at Clickaway or whatever, but I still thought of myself as just like my little studio and doing my little thing and nothing makes sense. And suddenly I was going to be on Creative Live on that platform. And they wanted me to teach lighting for film photographers. And, the internet was telling me I was doing it wrong and all this stuff. And I was driving to the studio. I had to be at the studio at like 6 a.m. I was driving to the studio. It was like 5:30 a.m. And I was like in complete mental breakdown. I was like, there is no way. I'm going to get on that stage and everybody's going to know I don't know what I'm talking about and that I'm not good enough and that my work is like, meh, and my lighting is boring or whatever. And that was very much a moment of like, what am I doing? Like extreme doubt. What I've found though, and that was hard. And the staff there luckily works with a lot of artists that go into meltdown before. Like, they're so they know exactly how to handle me. Yeah, they're like, you're fine. They're like, this is totally normal, which is nice to know. Yeah, I mean, I go through that. I still go through that. And I think that that's normal. Again, it's just like requiring a tremendous amount of trust in yourself and as your vision. I mean, we're artists. Like, if you're an artist, like what you create is just what you create. It's your vision of like what you're called to do. That there can't be a right or wrong to that. I mean, there's technical things you can learn so that you can create your vision consistently and, at a level that meets your expectations. But I don't know. Did that answer your question?
It does. And to answer that, you got to know the rules to be able to break them, right? So there are standards that I think anyone that takes whatever their craft is seriously, there is some base level of knowledge that you have to have before you can say, well, I'm a non-traditional artist. Like, hold on a second. Like, do you know any of the tradition at all? Right? I think the thing that I love about talking to you as someone that's been in the industry for a while, you've got this wonderful confidence about you where you've been through the shit, you come out the other side, you've got all this experience and all this knowledge. It's the wisdom that you carry year over year over year. What are you seeing in your work now that you wouldn't have seen in your work when you were younger based on all of that wisdom and experience?
Wow, that's a great question. I think what I see in my work now, the biggest difference between my work now and when I started is this sense of trust and just knowing I can do it. Actually, it's really interesting because I recently got an Aura ring, those trackers and all that kind of stuff. And I've only had it a week, but I was wearing it when I was working with clients. I had 2 newborn clients last week, and it gives you data, right? So I was looking at like my stress levels after my newborn sessions. And at both newborn sessions, my heart rate went down into like deep relaxation and then into like this restorative mode. And it was fascinating to me because I feel like what I have now that I didn't used to have is this like deep knowing that I'm really good at what I do and I know exactly how to do it. And it's just like muscle memory. And so I start working with clients and I just get into this flow state. And it was really validating to see that reflected in actual data. So I definitely wasn't there at the beginning of my year. Things felt scary and hectic, and I would get nervous before every session and all of that. And now I'm like, no, I go into like full restorative flow state.
And that's the thing. We always talk about flow state, right? That's where we want to get to, athletes and artists and business people, right? We want to get to this flow state, but it's this mythical land. Are we there or not? And you never really know until you come out of it. You're like, man, I just crushed that. I don't remember anything I just said, but I crushed it. I was flowing, right?
Right.
And to be able to have that data that shows you that you go into this very Zen meditative state, it shows that you trust yourself, right? You're very comfortable with where you are. That's got to come through with the connections that you're making to these families. That's got to free up all this mental energy to be able to spend time focusing on them and their child. Have you seen your ability to connect? Because clearly you're easy to connect with, but have you found that with these families that maybe you don't know very well, can you connect with them at a deeper level because you're not worried about, oh my God, what are my lights doing? What's my camera doing? Do I have film, right? Is the cover on? Is all that stuff gone? And does that make your connections with these families more connected in the moment?
Yeah. 100%. And actually, that's part of what I teach the people that I mentor, because what I've learned is that flow state is something you can learn and you can activate. I call it having consistent, predictable routines and the importance of consistent, predictable routines. So I learned that when I was a teacher in teacher school. And the whole idea of consistent, predictable routines in a classroom is that you do the same thing in the same order every day. And then the children learn what's expected. They know they come in, they hang up their coats, they sit down, they pull out their journals, whatever the routine is. And what that does is it lowers stress because the brain's not trying to predict what's coming next. That is something that I did take with me into my photography career, because I was like, I taught kindergarten, I was like, if it works for kindergarten, it's going to work for me. And so from a very early in my career, I was like consistent, predictable routines. And so what that looks like for me is, I have a lighting system that I do in the exact same way every single session. I have posing flow. I have a system where I start with this every single time. Then we go to this, then we go to this, then we go to this. Even the things that I say to my clients when they walk through the door, I'm doing the same routine every time. And like I said, this is something I teach the photographers I mentor how to do, like create systems, intentional systems in your business and in your posing and with your lighting for that very reason. Because once it becomes muscle memory, once you really learn it and you just do it, then your body just goes into autopilot. You can just do it without even thinking it. And you know that you're going to get results. And then what that does is it frees the rest of your consciousness to be able to connect to the people you're photographing. So to answer your question, like as far as connection with my families, absolutely. So I'm not thinking, my brain's not spending all this time thinking like, oh, what's my light doing? Is it set right? Do I have the right settings? What am I going to do next? Like, how can I be the most creative? Like, how am I going to pose them? What am I going to say to them? All of that's just muscle memory. I'm just doing it. So instead, my brain is able to really look at somebody, read their body language. Are they comfortable right now? Or are they feeling a little bit nervous? Why don't we talk to them? How can I help them relax into this? How can I help this baby settle if the baby's unsettled? Like, so it's a really powerful practice. And I encourage everybody to create those kind of routines. And I know the pushback is, oh, but I won't be as creative if I'm doing the same thing in the order at the same time. And it's like, no, that's not true. You're going to be more creative. Like, trust me on this.
When you get to the point of unconscious competence with your craft, it frees up so much of that mental energy. That's all that kept coming back to me was unconscious competence, right? Because you have to work through these stages where you have no idea what you're doing, and then you're kind of good at it, but you're still a little bit worried. And then that fear and anxiety starts to allay. And now you kind of enter this place, the flow state, right? Where it's just, you know what you're doing. It doesn't mean that it has to be boring or systematized so that all feeling is gone from it. It just needs to be repeatable so that you're not worried about the minutia, right? You know, you've got all that handled. You've been a teacher forever. What's the one thing that you try to give your students that no one gave you when you were coming up?
Well, I was really naive starting my photography journey. I didn't realize that there was a whole industry. Like, I know that sounds silly. It's kind of embarrassing to say out loud. But, like, I didn't know that. I just was like, I just have this camera. I'm just doing this on the side. I just like hustled. Like, I didn't realize the infrastructure. So I didn't seek out mentors. I didn't seek out classes. I didn't seek out learning. I felt very isolated. And I think that I could have progressed much quicker in a much healthier way mentally if I had had all of that. And so what I always so impressed with the students who are in my classes or come to my talks or who are at conferences or whatever, that like, good for you for, like, I see it like as self-care, like realizing that you don't have to do this alone. There are people who have done it before you, who are willing and able and wanting to help you. And like, how amazing is that? And I have like a zero gatekeeping philosophy rule, you know, in my life, where I'm not somebody who's cagey or who's gonna just give you a little piece of the information. It's like, I'll tell you whatever you want. You want to talk about numbers? Let's talk about numbers. I'll tell you exactly what I charge, exactly what I make. Like, I don't, at this point in my career and in my life, it's like I have literally nothing to hide. And I would much rather just share all that information with somebody and help them get there faster. And God, I wish I would have had that. And I probably could have if I'd known to look for it. And also not been afraid to ask for it. I think sometimes people, there's almost like a little bit of shame in learning from other people or asking from somebody because they're like, oh, I should have this figured out or I should know it. And just let that go and just get help if you need help. Even if you don't think you need help, get help, because you probably do.
There ain't a single person that doesn't need help. Olympic athletes need coaches, right? So you've been teaching year over year. What's one of the things that you hope that your students carry with them over the years? If there's one thing that they pull from it, from all of your courses and all of your teaching, what's kind of the one core principle that you hope they retain out of all of it?
Well, what I really hope people learn from me is that whatever it is that they do, what they are called to do, like their vision, their version of creativity, that thing that they do, that they realize that they're called to it for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, it is their unique way of seeing the world. And if they're called to share it, like, that's not an accident. And to really have faith in your vision and your voice as an artist and in yourself, and, you know, be brave enough to share it with the world. That's really what I really hope people walk away from that. And I can teach you all the things around it. I can teach you to create the kind of light you want. I can teach you how to create consistent, predictable routines. I can teach you business and marketing and stuff. But the thing that I can't teach you is your gift. And figure that out in yourself and trust it.
It's the battle, right? No matter how long you're in business, no matter how long you're doing this for yourself, if you're just starting out, if you've been in it for 50 years, there's never a day. I don't recall a day. I've been doing this 13 years now. I don't remember a day where I didn't doubt myself, where I didn't want to throw it all in and just go get a job at Subway. Like, there isn't a single day that goes by. It's just like, I wish I had better benefits. I wish I had my 401k back. Like, all these things, right? Maybe not necessarily these days.
You said Subway, because I always say to my husband, like, that's it. I'm burning it down and I'm going to get a job at Starbucks. So my go-to is like,
right? Same thing. East Coast, West Coast. Let's move a little bit into story, because your work, and there's zero disrespect when I say that, your work is very simple. You go about things very simply, but it still imparts a ton of story. When you're going into a shoot, no matter how many times you've done this, How do you approach your storytelling with that client? Right? Every baby's a little bit different. How do you approach the storytelling?
That's a really good question because my work is very, very simple. It's very stripped down. It's very minimal and intentionally. I love that. But I also feel like it is emotive in some way. And I think that is kind of the beauty, the artistry, and the trick of being a portrait photographer in particular. Like, I think what portrait photographers have a little bit of magic, right? Where they can just set somebody in front of a gray backdrop and have it be compelling. I think it has something to do with being in that flow state where I'm not worried. I'm not overthinking the process. Like, I know what I'm going to ask people to do and how I'm going to line them on this stuff so I can really connect to people. And I'm a people person. I'm actually really curious about people. And so I think I pull that out. And I feel like I do that work. This sounds a little woo. Sounds a little woo-woo. But I work with newborns, right? So it's not like I'm like, so tell me about yourself, 2-day-old baby. But I feel like it's the same process with the newborns because I really, I feel like people are born who they are. And I like tapping into who they are, even as a 2-year-old. Like I always say, like, I'm doing the same thing whether you're 8 days old, 8 years old, or 80 years old. Like, I'm trying to see who your spirit is and capture that. I don't know how I do it.
Do you find that you have to slow down to do that? And does shooting film, afford you or force you to slow down to that degree? Has that contributed to that Zen-like state, that flow, knowing that you only have so many exposures?
Oh, 100%. Like, I have 16 exposures on a roll of medium format film.
Right.
And it costs like the price of like a latte every time I hit the shutter. So I always laugh with my clients and say I'm like a wildlife photographer because like I get everything set up and I just am there with my camera just like waiting and watching. So a lot of what I do is this anticipation and waiting and watching and slowing down. And part of that is inherent in the fact that I do shoot with film. Like it makes me do that. And I appreciate that. But I will say, even when I am shooting digitally, because sometimes I do, like I injured my arm this year and Hasselblad's really heavy. And I was like, I can't shoot the Hasselblad. So I was like, I'm going to use this, my mirrorless camera. But I do the same thing. I try to like, just like really slow down and breathe, really wait for it, really see, really position.
Yeah.
And well, and clearly it's like a meditative experience for me because I have now proof I'm not worried. I get very relaxed when I'm doing it. So I do think like, especially with like newborns, there's a sense of really having to slow. And also babies feel that. Like if you want to talk like energy stuff, like babies are like horses and they will smell fear. Like they know if you're anxious, they know if you're afraid of them, they know all that stuff and they will react. And so if you come in and your energy is grounded and calm, the baby's going to react to that. The baby's going to be grounded and calm as a result.
I think you just came up with the title of the episode, which is Babies Are Like Horses. So you mentioned something in there in terms of slowing down. One of my favorite movies ever is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And he goes on
that movie.
Right. The newer version, the Ben Stiller version.
Yeah, so good.
He's chasing Sean Penn around the world, Sean McDonough, right? He's chasing him around the world, finally finds him in the Himalayas. And Sean Penn is taking this picture of this snow leopard or is waiting for the snow leopard. He's just sitting there and waiting. Clearly, he's just been waiting there for hours and hours and hours. And then he sees it and then he doesn't take the picture because he just believes that you need to be in the moment. Has there been anything like that where you've just been in the moment about to press your latte price shutter and gone, you know what? No, this is just too beautiful. I need to be here in this minute. Is there anything like that you've done in a session?
Oh, definitely. I've had a lot of really, really beautiful sessions. But there's always this one session that sticks out in my brain. It was a newborn session, newborn family, and the dad had just found out that he had brain cancer, like level 4 brain cancer. And so there was I get kind of like, whew. So there was a lot of moments in that session where I was like, this is their moment. And like still making sure I was creating images because I knew that I mean, anytime I take an image, I know it's going to be an heirloom image, but I knew this one going into it, like, this is the memory that this child is going to have.
Yeah.
And, but also there was a couple times in that where I was like, I'm going to just walk out of the room and I'm just going to let you guys have some time and then we're going to come back to it. It was rough, but yeah. And there are also things that happen sometimes on a shoot because I am shooting film. Like I have built-in breaks. I'm changing out a role, so there are things that are magical and baby sleep smiling or whatever. And it's like, I'm in the middle of changing my role and I missed it. And also just trusting, like, it's okay if I missed that moment because there's going to be lots of beautiful moments and we don't have to rush. That's the big thing. It's like when I first started, I started with film and then I went to digital when everybody went to digital. And it really changed the way that I shoot because I felt so obligated to take every single set, every look, everything. And so people would come in and I would just like, go, 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 go. And it made the entire session feel frantic,
right.
And now just to be able to trust, like, I'm going to let that go. It's okay if I miss that because there's going to be another one. I don't have to chase this child around with this camera. Like, it's fine. We can come back to it. It changes the energy for sure.
Why are we afraid of missing a moment? When I go to conferences, I don't take a lot of photos because I don't like the paparazzi around a model's booth or whatever's being shot. I don't like shooting like that. It's just not germane to who I am. So I don't do it. I think we often, especially when we're not as confident in our skills, do that spray and pray because I might miss a moment. I might miss that one thing and I've got to get the shot before the guy next to me gets the shot. I need to get the shot. When we're thinking like that, we're not in the flow of trusting ourselves, knowing when that right moment is, and capturing the look that is true to who we are. We're just capturing stuff and then sorting through it and saying, yeah, I can kind of see my voice in that. One of the things that I've always battled is shooting too fast. Mm-hmm. As a people pleaser, I want to get people in and out. I'm trying to give them my craft, give them as much variety as possible. Do you ever feel there are certain shots that maybe are signature shots or things that you want to get? Do you ever feel time crunched and, wow, I've got to get this shot before I leave here? Or do you really let the universe kind of dictate how the day goes and you just follow your consistent, repeatable process and whatever comes of it, comes of it? I might be answering my own question here as I
Yeah, you are. Like, you just nailed it. It's like,
yeah.
I do the exact same thing in the same order every single time. Like, I start with the baby in the bed. I do different things with the baby. Then I bring in mom. Then I bring in dad. We do family. Then mom leaves. I shoot with dad. And then we're done. Yeah. So, like, it's very efficient. And I don't ever worry that I'm missing shots because I've already built it in. Every once in a while, I'll get something that I was like, oh, this little sweet special moment happened in between. But I know what I'm going to get. I get it every single shoot. And my newborn sessions, even when we're taking time for feeding or whatever, rarely go over an hour. My people are in and out. That's the beauty of consistent, predictable routines, right?
You may have just gotten yourself a new student as I work through my 4 or 5 hour session. Other than the fact that I know that there's a baby present on set, I know very little about newborn photography. And sometimes I don't even know if the baby needs to be there. So in newborn photography, are there any rites of passage that you learned kind of getting into it that you hear someone go through? You're like, oh yeah, now you're a newborn photographer. Is there any sort of rite of passage in the newborn photographer communities?
I think so. I think that there's getting comfortable with babies, like getting comfortable, like holding somebody else's baby. And, I don't know. Like, I think that that's definitely part of it. Being able to anticipate things, knowing how babies work and like, function. It's really funny because at this point, I know, like,
wait, I have no idea.
It's like, I mean, it's certainly something. I mean, I'm a mother but I've also been a newborn photographer for 26 years. Right. So, a lot of times I'm like,
I don't know if it's, puke on the lens or like.
Oh, I've had babies like projectile poop all over my lights and me. And I go to work and I just wear t-shirts and
Like going there as Matt said.
I always joke. I'm like, I get peed on at work probably more than most people. So I mean, like things like that. I don't know. It's fun. Like I love working with babies.
I don't have children. It's a foreign world to me. And it gives me more than a little bit of anxiety to think about wandering into that situation. I have a hard enough time dealing with adults, never mind not getting any verbal feedback from the thing in front of me. Like, talk to me, baby. Like, I need to know where you're at.
Yeah.
So,
Shine.
I haven't learned that yet in the 8 days on this planet. Okay, well, I'll give you a pass. All right. Thinking about all of this, I want to come back to connection. It's something that I'm hearing more and more people talk about. I've developed classes on connection. I've written books and ebooks on connection. We're going to talk about your new book in a second, but I've written ebooks on human connection. I've read as much as I can. I've also done all the therapy and all the research into myself, knowing how it works for my business. When you're thinking about connection and what it's meant to you over the years, what's the single greatest thing that has come from you making connections with these families over the years? Do you see it immediately? Do you get it years later? Where do you find that connection is most potent?
That's a good question. You're so good at asking questions. I love my job and I love my clients. And I have clients who've come to me when they're pregnant with their first baby and have remained my clients until that baby has graduated from high school. Like I literally watch families and children grow up before me. I had a session last year. A man came in with his wife and baby who I had been photographing since he was like 4. And then he's coming to me with his whole baby. And at first I was like, this can't be right. I was like, is this your child bride? And like what's going on here? And he's like, I'm 31. And I was like, stop it. Like, that's not, wait. So that's even happened now where I can say I've been doing this long enough where I'm now on the second generation, which is weird, but awesome. So I think that's my favorite part is like people come in and we connect and now we're together on this like whole journey and I document their family's entire life, which is so cool.
Do you have one magic phrase that kind of gets you over the hump with people that aren't necessarily as connected to you at the beginning? Because every now and again you run into these clients that no matter what you're doing, they're giving you nothing back. And I'm not talking about the child laying there, more than parents.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've learned to say to either break the ice, get over the hump, just get that thing going? Or is part of your process so forthcoming that by the time you get in front of them, they already kind of know how you work and you've worked out the personalities?
Yeah. No, I don't have like a phrase, but I do think like circling back to the beginning of our conversation, that's where that flywheel marketing approach comes in because like I do so much of my client nurturing and client prep through my marketing channels. So by the time they're walking through my door, they know me, they know my philosophy, they know what they can expect, they know everything. So most of my clients come in feeling like I've even had people like, oh, I feel like I already know you. I feel like we've already met because I've used my marketing channels to nurture and to prep like that. Do I make an immediate connection with everybody? No, of course not. But I think also I'm really good at my job. So even if people are like nervous, as soon as like I come in and I'm like, why don't you just hand me that baby? And then, I have the baby asleep and happy in 2 seconds. And they're like, we haven't had the baby sleep in 4 days, or whatever. They begin to trust me and we go from there.
I want to push back. I think that you have made connection with them. You wouldn't be working for them if you hadn't made that connection through your website, through your marketing, through all the verbiage that you use and just being you. We often eschew that side of connection, but you're there and you were hired because something resonated with that family.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah.
So you've already connected with them. Sometimes personalities don't mix, but I was just curious if, you get these last minute ones where maybe they haven't read through your whole website or know your backstory. and they're just hard to connect with.
I think it's too, like, it's a difference between the kind of work we do, right? Because people come in and I'm not like you work with adults. So people come in and then they're your subject, right? So my people come in and then I'm mostly focusing on their baby. So it's almost like the baby is the buffer, between us. It gives them time to warm up, if that makes sense.
It does. Totally. You meet people on the street and you're playing with their dog and you're not talking to them and the dog is the buffer, right? Oh, you've got a dog too? Yeah. Yes, I've got a dog. Let's talk dogs. Let's talk about books. So your first book, Lighting, right?
Yep.
Second book, where are we going?
So exciting. So I think almost finished writing the second book. So the second book is something I'm really excited about. It's kind of, for me, I'm viewing it as like a legacy piece. So my first book was Crafting the Natural Light Look and teaching photographers to create natural looking light, strobes and flash, because that's what I do. But this book is the entire Sandra Coan method. So we're going into lighting, and where I'm different in this book than the first book. So first book, lighting was kind of geared toward any genre, mostly studio, that kind of stuff. This book is crafted specifically for newborn and family photographers. And so the lighting is taught specifically for newborn family photographers. I have a whole section on lighting in people's homes. So if you don't have a studio, like most people don't, like, how do you do that? How do you just light an entire room with one flash? How do you make it look like window light? All that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about that piece, that I get to speak directly to that part of the industry, because a lot of people don't. There's not a lot of resources out there for newborn and family photographers. So we're going to do lighting. Then we do posing. So posing, newborns, families, maternity, the middle part of the book. And then the last half of the book is putting those two things together, like in real time. So start to finish, what is that consistent? And I talk a lot about consistent, predictable routines, and I teach people how to establish them for themselves. And then last half of the book, then we're doing like in real life, IRL, like, you walk in, we're going to set up our light here. We're going to do this, these poses, this lighting, these poses, this lighting, and kind of showed the whole system together. So I'm hoping, like I said, it's specifically for newborn family photographers. I think we're calling it a complete guide to family photography. So
that fits.
Straightforward. Yeah. And it's the whole picture. And I'm really excited about it. I've been working on it for a little over a year now. And I'm looking at my calendar. Manuscript is due the end of next month. So it should be out in 2026. I'm really excited.
Are you self-publishing, or do you work with a publishing company?
Yeah, I work with Rocky Nook. They are fantastic. So I did my first book with them. And then we also did a set of posing cards for newborn poses. So this is my third project with Rocky Nook, and they're great.
Yeah.
But listen, if you are a newborn family photographer, I'm just going to say this, buy the book, because one of the concerns, and I've heard this throughout the industry, is that, people get nervous, bigger brands like publishers or companies like education companies, speaking platforms, about creating content specifically for newborn and family photographers, because they're worried that there's not demand for it, which I think is so interesting. If you notice in our industry, a lot of information is geared toward wedding photographers or geared toward fashion photographers or whatever, but not so much. Like family newborn photography is considered a niche, but it's a huge part of the market. And so I feel really excited and really honored that Rocky Nook is trusting me to create a resource specifically for that underserved part of our industry. And I'm really excited about it.
Why do you think it's underserved? I mean, it seems like anybody that's doing weddings is typically also doing families. Maybe not newborns, but generally speaking, there's, a lot more similarities in terms of clientele. Why do you think there's not this push? Is it just not sexy enough?
I mean, I have a lot of opinions. You want to hear my unpopular?
I love opinions. Bring them.
Okay. So I think, it's not considered sexy. It's not taken seriously. There's that whole thing, the whole mom with a camera. Women are called moms with a camera. Like how insulting is that? Like, what does that even mean? Like, be a freaking mom with a camera. Good for you. Like, you're your family like you're documenting your family. Like that's amazing. That's incredible. I think a majority of newborn family photographers are women, and I think it's women's work, and oftentimes women's work isn't taken seriously or valued. Like you look at teaching, traditionally, nursing, traditionally, these jobs that mostly women have filled are often, not even sometimes, poo-pooed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is at play in that as well. And we need to shift that. The reality is there are a lot of women, there are a lot of moms with cameras who are creating incredible work, incredible art, doing really important stuff, making a shit ton of money. To be fair, it's also a very lucrative side of the industry and a very lucrative career and potential to be lucrative career. So the only way we're going to shift that dynamic and have it taken more seriously is by demanding the resources and being loud and making a platform for ourselves as newborn family photographers for people to take seriously. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's something in the water where you are, because I talked to Elena Blair recently and she had similar thoughts, right? And
yeah,
she's
actually a good friend of mine. We get all worked up about this all the time.
I know you do. And I love talking to both of you because you're so passionate about the family and newborn world. And it doesn't have to be something that is just this little side hustle, right? It can be a very, looking at the two of you, an extraordinarily profitable business. And I love the fact that it's you putting out this book, because it's not, oh, let me go on ChatGPT and write a book about family photography. This is hard-worn, in the trenches type of information, I'm sure, built from an incredible career.
Yeah.
When can we see the book come out? Tentatively, when are we planning?
Well, I think the goal is mid-year 2026.
Okay.
We were hoping to try to get it out before WPPI
next year.
We'll see next year. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm excited about it too. Yeah, it's this 26 years experience in this book. That's like heart and soul into this book. So I feel like it's a legacy piece, because writing books is hard. I don't know if I'll ever do it again.
It's why I ask so much about self-publishing and when and timelines, because, I have some very good friends that are authors, and it always takes way longer to do than people think. And to do it right, to go through the editing, to do all the logistics. So I'm super proud of you. I can't wait to see this come out.
Yeah.
I know for me, I don't do lighting indoors like natural light. So I'm actually going to go back and pick up your first book and read through that anyway.
Well, thank you. You should leave a good review.
I'm going to put some food on your table because I know you're struggling. So listen, I have a couple more questions before we land this plane. What's a phrase in the industry that you absolutely want to get rid of?
That's probably shoot and burn.
Shoot and burn?
People are like, oh, are you shoot and burn? Like, I feel like that's another derogatory, very like shame-inducing phrase. It's like, come on. You know what I care about? I don't care if you sell your digital files. I don't care if you don't. I don't care if you do in-person sales. I don't care if you don't. I care that you're profitable. Yeah. So if you're running a profitable business and it's something that works for you and it works for your clients, and however that shapes up, then good for you. That's all I care about. So why don't we just like stop shaming people and just stop.
I love it.
That gets me.
I don't like off-camera flash. Every flash is off-camera flash. Get rid of that. Like, I need someone that's good with off-camera flash. So you need someone good at light is basically all you're saying, right? So, I don't know. It's just one of those things that bugs me, always gets me. I'm like, oh, off-camera flash. Oh. If you weren't a photographer and teaching doesn't count, what's the alternative career that you would have gone down?
Well, if I wasn't a photographer, I was a teacher before, and I'm doing the both. So, okay, that's hard. Okay, so like my fantasy retirement job.
Yeah.
How would that work?
Sure, that works.
I think it would be really fun just to work in a bookstore or sell plants or something. It's just something really relaxing. I'm a big reader, and I'm like, oh, what if I just worked in a bookstore and chatted with people about whatever Like that was
About the book that you just published and are pushing on to them?
I'm like, great, can I interest you in learning to create fantasy night with strobes and flash? I was thinking if I had one where I could grab it. One of my old ones. Yeah, I do. It's right there. Do I see it? It's pretty.
Slide it over just a little bit more so everyone can see. Perfect. There it is. Beautiful.
Yeah.
God, it's so... Is that a hardcover?
No, this one is not, but it's very
Got it.
neat. And what I love about this book too, like Rocky Neck's awesome because they let me do kind of quote unquote risky things, but this book has a big section on film photography and the difference it is between film and a digital sensor and metering and stuff.
But know what? Like, that's information, it's tribal information that's not being really passed down anywhere, right?
Oh yeah, there hasn't been a lighting book in probably 10, 15 years that had something on film photography. Like
At all. I certainly
I
haven't
think
seen it.
it is it's different. Like you have to approach it different. It doesn't work the same. So
You are methodical. You are confident.
Mhm.
You have systems and workflows. What's one rule that no matter what anybody says, you just love to break every single time? And it doesn't even have to be photography. Like, do you speed through school zones or anything? Like,
like, things that I like to break. So photography related, apparently I used my light modifiers wrong.
don't listen to the old white guys on the internet. Like, that's your first
The
mistake.
internet, like and you're right. It's always an old white guy loves to tell me that I'm using my modifiers wrong. And it's like, okay, thank you, sir. But so that happens. And in real life, unpopular opinion, I don't really like yoga. And I know like everybody is supposed to like yoga. And everybody's like, oh, let's go to yoga. It's so relaxing. I freaking hate yoga. It drives me nuts. It's like I don't want to stretch. I don't want to sit there. I don't want to do any of it. So
Do you ever calm this thing down, your brain, or is it always going nonstop?
it's kind of always going, but I am trying to work on that. I do meditate every day, but yeah, that's the challenge of being Sandra Coan.
I'd be interested in seeing what you're ordering, the comparison charts between photographing a baby and meditation. If it's the same chart, like it's all delta brain waves,
It's funny though, because me too, like I want to see that too. Like, so that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about having it.
As we kind of wrap this up, where can everybody find this? So if they're looking for you, I know you've got your photography site, you've got your education stuff. Where's the best place for people to follow up on this conversation and see your work, get in touch with you, buy your books? Give me all the links and handles.
So probably easiest is Instagram, right? Because we're all on the gram.
All in.
And you can just find me at Sandra Coan. Coan is spelled Coan. So it's spelled a little funny. But Sandra Coan, that's where you're going to find me, my work. You can DM me. I'm really good at answering people back. I actually love chatting with people in the DMs. So that's really fun. And then everything's linked from Instagram. So you can find my photography site. You can find my education site. I run a certification program as well. That's all linked in there. So that's probably the best place to start.
You are magnificent. I am so happy that I forced you onto this. I came by.
You're like, yes.
Said, hey, you want to come by? Yeah, I was a bit taken aback. I was just like, all right, just slow down, consider it for a second, know what you're getting into. You are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait for people to listen to this. And there's not a whole lot that I need to edit because you're a talker, sister. You are just like me. I know. You run me.
Bridget. Well, thank you so much for asking me, and thank you for inviting me on your show. Like, what a pleasure, and so lovely to see your face.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really appreciate it.
When am I going to see you again? You are you doing any more shows this circuit, or are you back home for a while?
I'm back home for a while, so I do the big ones.
Yep.
In Q1, so imaging and
Yep.
WPPI, and then yeah, I'm trying to finish this book.
Okay.
And then my kids are going to come home from college, and I'm just going to focus on being a mom, and I'm just taking it easy for a few months.
I love it. Well, stick around here for just another minute, but thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon. Okay.
Hey, bye.
All right, bye.